Make America Great Again, Make America Great Again was a slogan that helped President Trump make an unexpected and strong return to politics, securing a second term as the President of the United States. However, the question is whether he will be able to succeed in realizing the promise behind that slogan, as there is something big that might challenge his goals on a larger scale during his presidency. What is that something? It is the rise of BRICS. For people who don't know what is BRICS, let me explain. And for the people who already know what is BRICS, I urge you to still stick on, because I'm going to unravel the darkest truth on how this BRICS could affect the fate of America. BRICS stands for Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa, a combination of influential emerging economies, and together these nations account for over 46% of the world's population, more than 35% of the global GDP, 43% of oil production, and more than 25% of exports goods globally. Let's see the BRICS evolution timeline. The concepts of BRICS originated in 2001 when economist Jim O'Neill of Goldman Sachs coined the term BRIC, referring to Brazil, Russia, India, and China. He predicted that these nations would drive global economic growth in the coming decades. In 2006, the first formal meeting of the BRIC nations took place. Fast forward in 2010, South Africa joined the group, transforming it into BRICS and adding an African dimension, which further enhanced its geographical and geopolitical diversity. Since then, the BRICS leaders meet annually to discuss crucial topics like trade, investment, energy cooperation, and ways to reduce reliance on Western-led financial systems. Recently, the likes of Egypt, Ethiopia, Iran, and the UAE were invited to the list as well. Taliban were interested to join the list. Hi, calling you from Afghanistan. I would like to play in your team. Taliban were interested to join the list, but BRICS denied it because they simply didn't like the voice of the person who was on the phone. Just kidding. BRICS denied Taliban due to various political reasons. You may ask me to stop bullshitting and come to the point as to why the BRICS could affect the USA growth. I will answer to you in a bit, but before that, I guess you need to watch this clip from the best person himself, the Trump.
Ultimately, it kills your dollar and it kills everything the dollar represents, and we have to continue to have that be the world currency. I think it's important. I think it would be losing a war if we lost the dollar as the world currency. I think that would be the equivalent of losing a war.
Trump has stated that losing the value of the dollar is equivalent to losing the war. But why is that? To answer this, let's take a look at the history of the dollar's dominance over the time. The US dollar didn't always hold this position of global supremacy. In the late 19th century, the British pound sterling dominated global trade, backed by Britain's colonial empire. However, World War I significantly weakened Britain's economy, creating an opportunity for the United States to emerge as global economic leader. The US dollar gained prominence during the interwar period, especially with the establishment of the Federal Reserves in 1913, which enhanced its credibility. The turning point came in 1944 with the Bretton Woods Agreement. This established the dollar as the anchor of the global financial system, pegging it to gold at $35 per ounce, while other currencies were pegged to the dollar. This means that you could theoretically exchange a certain amount of dollars for a corresponding amount of gold at any time, which provided stability and trust in the currency's value. Post-World War II, the US accounted for nearly half of the global GDP and held most of the world's gold reserves. The Marshall Plan of 1948 further solidified the dollar's role as the US financed European reconstruction, creating dependency on the dollar for global trade. In 1971, the US ended the gold standard by the President Richard Nixon due to an economic crisis, transitioning to a fiat currency system, which was termed as Nixon shock. To maintain demand for the dollar, the US forged the petrodollar system in 1973, ensuring oil prices were denominated in dollars. This move stabilized the dollar's global role as nations required dollars to purchase oil, thus making it global currency. The dollar's reserve currency status has been another cornerstone of its dominance, with central banks like IMF and World Bank holding the majority of their reserves in dollars due to its stability and liquidity. The dollar remains involved in nearly 90% of global foreign exchange transactions and constitutes 58% of disclosed global foreign exchange reserves, contributing to its high value. The dollar's value continues to grow even today, but I need your support to grow my channel, especially since this is my first video. I hope you liked it so far. Subscribing to my channel is free for you, but it's a treasure for me that keeps me motivated to create more content. So don't forget to hit that subscribe button to stay updated with all my interesting videos. Now, let's get back to this one. You have witnessed how the dollar has dominated the global economy over other currencies for decades. The question now is, will this continue in the future? Because in the recent BRICS Summit 2024, the BRICS nations have been in the spotlight for one main reason: de-dollarization. BRICS countries are actively seeking alternatives to the US dollar in trade and investment. As an initiative, they propose two main strategies: the New Development Bank and the BRICS Payment System. The New Development Bank, NDB, commonly known as the BRICS Bank, is a multilateral financial institution founded by the BRICS nations in July 2014. Its purpose is to promote development in emerging economies and offer an alternative to traditional institutions like the World Bank and the International Monetary Fund, IMF. So what do the IMF and World Bank do? Simply put, both provide financial assistance to member countries through loans for short-term needs and long-term development projects. The NDB has stepped in to offer similar loans, but in local currencies and with more favorable interest rates, reducing reliance on the IMF and World Bank. Now, BRICS Payment System. This system seeks to reduce reliance on Western control systems like SWIFT. It builds on Russia's SPFS system for transmitting financial messages, developed in 2014 in response to potential exclusion from SWIFT due to US sanctions. So far, the system has attracted interest from 159 countries, highlighting a global demand for financial platforms that enhance autonomy and minimize exposure to sanctions or external economic pressures. Now we have reached the most crucial part of this video, the 9 key impacts of BRICS on the United States and President Trump. Pay close attention as number 9 is incredibly significant and might just blow your mind. Economic isolation. If BRICS nations agree to trade in their local currencies, it reduces the need for US dollar reserves and excludes American exporters from key markets. Job losses, a decline in the international competitiveness of US exports driven by de-dollarization or shifting global trade dynamics would significantly impact American jobs. Geopolitical marginalization. If BRICS establishes rivals institutions to the International Monetary Fund and World Bank, the US risks losing its central role in global economic governance, particularly in developing regions where BRICS might offer attractive alternatives to Western-backed aid and loans. Loss of sanction power. The US often uses its control over the dollar-centric financial system to enforce sanctions. A BRICS-led shift to alternative systems like digital currency or a BRICS-based payment network could allow sanctioned countries to bypass these restrictions entirely, reducing America's ability to leverage economic pressure in geopolitical conflicts. Increased trade deficits. With an alternative trading system, American goods could become less competitive globally. This shift could affect US trading systems, leading to significant economic consequences. Loss of reserve currency status. The dollar's status as the world's reserve currency gives the US enormous financial and geopolitical leverage. It allows America to borrow at lower interest rates and impose powerful sanctions. A weaker dollar means the US will lose influence over global monetary policies and challenge the dominance of the Federal Reserve. Technological disadvantage. The collaborative efforts of BRICS nations in technology fields like artificial intelligence, renewable energy, and other critical sectors could pose a significant challenge to the United States. Investments backlash. With diminished global trust in the US dollar, the US may face higher borrowing costs to attract international investors and weaken the country's position as global financial leader in shifting multipolar economic landscape. Weakening of US military. We all know that the USA's biggest enemies are Russia and China, who have been issued sanctions in the past and would want to avenge the USA. If Russia and China were to jointly engage in a war with the US military could face significant challenges. Economic warfare from sanctions, especially on critical materials like rare earth metals, could disrupt the US defense supply chain and escalate costs. Advanced cyber attacks and technological threats targeting US infrastructure and satellites could impair military communication and coordination. A weaker dollar reduces government revenue, increases operational costs, and limits the scope of defense modernization. Over the time, this can erode the US position as a global superpower, not just economically, but also militarily. What's the current President Donald Trump's stance on all these impacts? As expected, Trump's response is bold and straightforward. Recently, he took to X to share his thoughts. This statement reflects Trump's characteristics, assertiveness. We all know that Trump is a strong advocate of tariffs. His approach to focuses on leveraging America's economic power to deter BRICS nations from undermining the dollar. By proposing 100% tariffs on countries supporting new BRICS currency, Trump is signaling that any challenge to the dollar dominance will come with severe economic consequences. He has also announced a 25% tariff on Canada and Mexico if border control and illegal drugs coming into the US aren't curtailed. Furthermore, he mocked Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau by calling him a governor and referring to Canada as a state during their meeting at Trump's Mar-a-Lago property in Florida. In response, Trudeau has now stated that it's time for Canada to retaliate if tariffs are imposed.
President-elect Trump got elected on a commitment to make life better and more affordable for Americans. And I think people south of the border are beginning to wake up to the reality that tariffs on everything from Canada would make life a lot more expensive for Americans.
The US imports 65% of its crude oil from Canada, a large amount of electricity, and virtually all of its natural gas. They depend on Canada for steel, aluminum, and various agricultural products. These goods would become more expensive for Americans. All of these strategies by the USA raise critical questions. Can such aggressive measures maintain US supremacy in global trade, or could they push BRICS nations and other countries closer together, accelerating their efforts to establish an alternative global order? While the US economy is strong, Trump's aggressive approach carries the risk of creating tensions that could shift global alliances and trade relationships worldwide and affect the status of the dollar in the coming years. If you found this video interesting and informative, please don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe to my channel, and click the bell icon to receive the notifications for future updates. Until next time, stay tuned!